Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Avery Saltzman,
And I'm David Eisner.
and we are the co artistic directors and the co founders of the Harold Green Jewish Theater Company in Toronto.
The Harold Green Jewish Theater Company is so proud to present part three of the Shoah Songbook by Licht Ensemble. This concert explores the music of Poland, sharing repertoire by Polish composers and from Krakow and Lodz ghettos.
It is our pleasure to introduce you to the driving forces behind this project. First, Jacqueline Grossman, a soprano known for her unique voice and interpretive sensitivity. This year, she joins the Reed Banks Family Fellowship, an international residency program with Toronto's Royal Conservatory of Music. Jacqueline is also the recipient of the Temple Sinai's 2020 Ben Steinberg Musical Legacy Award for a Canadian Jewish artist at the threshold of their career.
And Nate Ben Horan, a pianist and composer with experience in both opera and Jewish folk music. A graduate and former staff member of McGill University and UC Berkeley, Nate is currently a resident artist with Opera Columbus and Capital University. Ladies and gentlemen, Jacqueline and Nate.
Welcome, Jacqueline. Welcome, Nate. Nice to see you. How are you both today?
Great. Thanks for having us.
Doing good, thank you.
Our pleasure. Jacqueline, um, can you just share with us your journey in acquiring the material from Poland and also working in the Polish language, which I understand to be a very difficult journey?
Oh, it sure is a tricky language. As usual, with this work, finding repertoire isn't always easy, and we're really lucky that a lot of very wonderful people help and support us in our research. The first music we acquired for this concert was through Simon Weinberg, who's the artistic director of the Arc Ensemble at the Royal Conservatory here in Toronto. And their mission at the Arc Ensemble is to share music by composers who were exiled. So, of course, Simon and Arc is an awesome and wonderful resource for us. We also connected with the Polish Music Center at the University of Southern California, who were incredibly helpful. But beyond that, it was a lot of Googling and cold emailing and acquiring rare and sometimes out of print books that had morsels of information. It's always an interesting journey when we look for this music, but always quite rewarding as well. And as for the Polish language, it was a new challenge for me for sure. Polish is quite a difficult language and not one I'm familiar with at all, though my family is Polish, some of my family. I was really lucky to have people around me, both Polish people and diction coaches, who were able to help me. And it was very much an experience of working from the ground up. So, literally learning how to make the sounds so that I could then put them into the full words before even starting to sing them. So, really quite the experience.
Wow. And Nate, if you can give us some background information or any stories from some of the composers that you're dealing with and the ones that we'll be listening to.
Yeah, this is a really interesting batch of pieces. Firstly, we feature a bunch of pieces by this guy named Szymon Laks, who was a really interesting character, brilliant composer and thinker. He was the conductor of the Auschwitz-Birkenau Orchestra, and that's kind of how he survived there through having that post. And then he survived. And after the war, he went on to continue composing. He wrote books, including a book all about music in the camps. And he's sort of this contrasting voice to all of the people who say that music was their lifeline in the camp. And he makes a case that it was actually an instrument of torture, at least in Auschwitz, kind of this dreadful, like, false cheerfulness that forced people to move and work. So one of the sets that we have by him are these 3 polonaises, Polish folk dances. And the story behind those is that he was walking around Birkenau one day and he found a crumpled up piece of paper on the ground. He just spotted it and picked it up, totally dirty, smelled bad. And he unfolded it, and it had these 3 written out melodies by an unknown composer, 3 18th century Polish polonaises. And he orchestrated them, he set them for orchestra, and performed them in the camp. And then after the war, he reconstructed his orchestration from memory. And this is an arrangement for violin and piano of those 3 orchestral pieces. Another really interesting one in this program is Miriam Harel, who was, I believe, a teenager when she was sent to the Lodz ghetto, and she said she took a lot of like Polish folk melodies, Yiddish folk melodies that she remembered from her childhood, and she didn't write the melodies, but she gave them new lyrics about her experience in the camp. And the one that we chose in particular, the original song is a Polish folk song that tells the story of a young girl who runs off into the mountains to dance with soldiers, and her parents try to get her to come back, and she doesn't want to go back. But she changed it to lyrics, very kind of dismal, stark lyrics about the Lodz ghetto. And we were lucky enough to work with the violinist Aaron Schwabel on this concert. And the way I set the piece is that the violin kind of represents this character in the original folk song who is dancing and who is free to just be a normal teenage girl, whereas Miriam Harel is trapped in the camp. So the violin represents who Miriam would have been if she were free. And then we have another piece called Because I Am a Little Jew, that's by Unknown. And we have we're finishing off with Es Brent, which is a very famous Yiddish song by Mordechai Gebirtig, who was kind of similar to Mark Warshawski in terms of being someone who wrote a lot of Yiddish language music that has basically become like folklore at this point. So that's a piece that's been performed a lot. It was kind of intimidating to tackle it because it's been done so well so many times, but we definitely wanted to include it in this concert.
Wow, it's fascinating. It's amazing how through the works of piano and word and violin, how music can be so transformative and so healing at the same time. Also, you both now completed 3 Shoah Songbook concerts. What does it mean to you both personally? I guess the music itself and the journey that you both had to take on this incredible 3 concert series so far. Jacqueline?
Sure. I mean, I think journey is a really good word because it really does feel like every time we go into one of these concerts, it's a different journey and process for us individually and emotionally, and getting to know these people and this music and where it came from and why. And beyond that, I think any opportunity to connect with personal culture and heritage is really meaningful. But that said, in our current world, when we see this rise in anti-Semitism, when we see war in Ukraine, it's impossible not to feel called to action. And I think the journey of this recital was us sort of feeling that it's really easy to feel powerless and like one small action can't possibly enact any change. Or, you know, like Mordechai Gebirtig's Es Brent emulates, it's easy to feel like the fires, real or metaphorical, aren't in our own backyards, or they seemingly aren't. But having the opportunity to center the voices of these Jewish artists who were victims of war themselves, and continue to raise the questions that they were asking is a first step that I can take. And I think that's really important to acknowledge. I think we both believe that these voices and these sentiments are as important today as they were in their own time. And so that's sort of been what's been really meaningful about this concert.
Nate?
Yeah, I mean, for me personally, it's just kind of like a way of connecting with a part of myself that I realize more and more with each one is really important to me, you know, personally and artistically. And in this concert in particular, we have some really amazing archival footage from before, during, and after World War II in Poland. And it's just really incredible to look at these faces of Jewish people in this setting and kind of imagine what life was like back then and what might have been. And it's just shockingly easy to see yourself there, I would say.
Wow.
So yeah, that's what I'm thinking about right now.
Well, we got to thank you both for sharing all this information and giving this concert some context. We're so grateful for all your passion, talent, and hard work putting this concert together. It's a haunting musical journey. It's a revealing snapshot into the inner creative life of Jews in Poland during the Holocaust. So, ladies and gentlemen, we present to you the Shoah Songbook 3 and the music of Poland.
Już The fires that scorched Europe a long lifetime ago are still smoking, still smoldering, still burning. We still see the symbols of hatred. We still hear its howl. And still, we find it less painful to forget than to remember. There is a fire in every country. Along state borders scorched in blood and gasoline. In our cities and towns and even our homes. There is a vicious spark in every human heart. An immense fire threatens to consume the entire world. Not just Jews, the entire world. In the face of catastrophe, what can I do? What can anyone do? We find it less painful to forget than to remember. What can I do? Es brennt, Brüderach, brennt. Es kennt heilige kommender Moment. Unsere Stadt mit uns zusammen soll euch weg das Flammen bleiben soll wie noch a Schlacht, es pulst der schwarze Hand. Und steht und guckt, soll sich mit verlegte Hand. Und steht und guckt, soll sich unser Städtel brennt. Es brennt, Brüderach, brennt. Die Hilfe ist nur den Eichelein gewöhnt. Und euch das Städtel ist euch teuer. Nehmt die Kehle, löscht das Feuer. Löscht mit euer Eigenblut, bewahrt, dass ihr das könnt. Steht mit Brüder und soll sich mit verneigte Hand. Steht mit Brüder, löscht das Feuer. Unser Städtel brennt.